Chevron 1, loaded.
For my ally is the Force, and the power for ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 is loaded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff. I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, little boy.
Great Scott.
Back off, man.
I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with Al.
What about side by side with a friend?
The day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome back to Saturday Night Drive-In, where we take a break. And boy, do we need a break this week to just watch good movies and talk about them. And this week, I don't think there's going to be much argument over this week's movie. It's going to be general happy discussion, I think. It's not one of the controversial ones where Jed's going to shit on things I love from my childhood. It's not going to be one of those. Anyway, welcome one and all. Hail and howdy across everybody, across both chats. We're happy to have you here. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channels, and let's just dive right in. Welcome, Jed. I actually haven't seen you in a few days. How are you?
I know. It's been a grand total of less than a week, so
Yeah.
It's been a very, very long time. But I'm happy to be here because, yeah, as I mentioned last week when I announced this movie, it's time that we got to some of my childhood versus the black and white films from Adam's childhood. Got to mix things up a little bit. And we have been fighting a lot on streams, whether or not it's films that he loves or ones that I love and vice versa, that it was time to get one that I was fairly certain we were going to agree on. And this one just felt like the right one because it's one of the movies I watched the most growing up. So I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie. I'm going to try to, of course, be as objective as possible, which I always endeavor to do. But even watching it this time, I struggled to differentiate my nostalgia versus objective criticism. So I think this will still be an interesting discussion.
Yep. And we're joined by Ryan. Ryan has been on this channel before, but I think this is the first time you've been on Drive-In.
Yeah, it was the first. It actually is the first time I've been on Drive-In. I actually wanted to. I wanted to try to join for. I believe it was the Tomb Raider one. So did you guys do Tomb Raider? Because
we did Tomb Raider. Yeah,
that's one. That's
that was the Melanie Mac episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know that Melanie was on. Yeah. No, I remember. That was one that I was like, man, I would love to be on for that one because I think that's probably. I still think to this day probably the greatest video game adaptation ever.
It could be up for debate.
I think
up for debate, you know.
You know what? You shut your mouth. No, I'm kidding. It's I'm excited to be on for this one. This is my second favorite Nicolas Cage movie. Only second to The Rock. Being my first favorite.
Rock's good.
Yeah, good ranking. Very good ranking.
Yeah, no, I love National Treasure. This movie is so good. I remember seeing it in 2005. I was in the military at the time. We were doing field exercises in Grafenwehr, and we got to all go to the movies. Like, you know, we got a little bit of a slight leave, and we all went and saw this in the theater, and it was so awesome.
I think I've seen this a total of 3 or 4 times now. It's not something that I instantly grabbed onto. I have never hated it. It's just not something I have found strong attachment to, like you guys and everybody else I basically know has a real strong attachment to the movie. I just kind of watch. I go, good time. It's good. I enjoy Nick Cage, but we're gonna get into that. And I will say now, I think I have chosen next week's movie, but I'll announce that at the end. You generally knows right before we get going, but I just kind of decided now. So hey, anyway, all right. So let's dive right in. Jed, this was your choice, so get us started.
Well, this is Jared Bruckheimer's first film after Pirates of the Caribbean, I believe. So he's coming off of quite a large high, producing National Treasure with Nicolas Cage. And this movie was like a perfect storm of weirdness. From the people I know, Ryan can, of course, contradict this since he was actually there. But the stories that I've heard of people watching this for the first time is no one knew really what to expect. This was Nick Cage coming off, the 90s when he is known as the crazy guy. Nick Cage doing dumb, weird, over-the-top things. So people were very confused going into this movie what to expect, because of course the trailers made it seem like it was all serious, interesting, and more Da Vinci Code-esque. I think that's what they were trying to go for, is getting their own Da Vinci Code. I don't know which came first though, necessarily.
I just feel like this was, let's do Indiana Jones light. That's what it's always felt like to me.
Yeah, I would say a little bit of Indiana Jones, a little bit of Da Vinci Code sprinkled in there, maybe a little bit of kind of some of that uncontrolled being able to not control the situation, kind of like his character had, a little bit of freaked out every once in a while, sprinkled in from like The Rock, because at the beginning of the movie he's just this nerd, he has no idea what he's doing, but by the end of the movie he's a lot more capable, but he's still a little unsure of himself. And I kind of felt like some of that was sprinkled into it. So I think it's kind of a mixture of things, but I thought the movie was, I didn't know anything about the movie. Okay. So I was actually, again, stationed in Germany. We just went and saw what movie was playing, because military theaters, I'm sure Jed could probably attest to this. When you're overseas, they're usually playing like one movie.
You get what you get.
That's how I watched Solo for the first time.
Yeah, you get what you get. I remember we didn't get anyway. This off topic, but we didn't get Revenge of the Sith until like 3 months after the fact.
Oh, yep, always late.
Yeah, always way late. So
yet somehow airplanes get those movies get them first.
Oh yeah, airplanes get them before the military.
Yeah,
when you're on a flight. Anyway,
yep. So. Yeah. So, but anyway, I think a little bit of Indiana Jones light, but I think a little more Disney-esque lightheartedness. I'm a huge fan of Jerry Bruckheimer.
This
I
is
think
great Disney.
Yeah,
it's great Disney.
This is before Bob Iger. This is, you said what, 2005, 2007?
I saw in 2005, and like you said, we probably saw it like 3-4 months later.
This is before Bob Iger then.
Before Bob Iger. But something controversial I do want to say now. Again, this is a purely subjective opinion, but I like this movie better than all of the Indiana Jones movies. I put it definitely above.
Oh my God, you heathen.
I said it was subjective. I can recognize that Raiders of the Lost Ark.
If you're going to say that, how many Indiana Jones movies are there?
3.
Okay, well, okay, you're still a heathen. Okay, fine.
Yeah, there's only 3.
Well, you're still a heathen.
Anyway, Raiders is objectively better. I just would prefer, if I had to pick between which one I'm going to actively watch, it's always going to be National Treasure.
Well, that's why I said it's light, because here's the thing. When you're talking Indiana Jones, it's dealing with mythology. It's dealing with usually Judeo-Christian, or even with Temple of Doom, Indian mythology, stuff like that. And there's a spiritual aspect to this. Mm-hmm. In this movie, there's still spiritualism. We're talking history. We're talking history, and that's why it's different. Now, is there a little conspiracy in there? Yeah, of course, because Freemasons, Illuminati, even though Illuminati aren't in this, I'm just lumping all kind of shit together.
Yeah, secret
that's
societies.
Kind of thing. It's a different subset of the I guess archaeology genre, because this is kind of archaeology genre. That's what it is. It's in that thing, and therefore, it's easier to go. Well, actually, this could go really dark if it wasn't Disney. Considering you're dealing with secret societies, it could have gone really dark. Because we mentioned, look at Tomb Raider, that was Illuminati, and that shit got dark fast.
It would have needed a very different cast. You know, I think the
Well,
only one who could probably pull off maybe the darkness of if it was different would be Diane Kruger, because she was obviously in Inglorious Bastards, and I've loved her ever since this movie, because as a young guy, she's pretty hot. So,
Oh yeah.
hey,
like
hey,
it,
hey,
it's
we're
still to
okay
this
with
day,
that.
I don't like the fact that she got choked to death in Inglorious Bastards. It still like sits wrong with me because of that like weird 18-year-old childhood feeling. Yes, at 18 you're still a child, by the way. Um, at 38, I might argue that I'm still somewhat of a child. But yeah,
We're
so
nerds. We're all goddamn children.
yeah, I think well, we're also guys too, and let's be honest, guys never really make mature past like 16 or 17.
Mm.
It's I just think it would have been a very different movie, and I don't think it would have been as widely hailed as it is if it took a
Well,
different turn.
before
Even with
we
Nick Cage coming off to him being the weird guy, as you were saying, from the
before
90s.
we get into the story though, this is actually a very well cast movie. I mean,
Oh,
Yes.
you
extremely
got Nick
so.
Cage, you got Sean Bean, who doesn't die.
Hmm.
Sean Bean doesn't die. You got Harvey Keitel. You got John Voight. These are some serious heavy hitter actors in this movie, and and they all pull off a great performance. Frankly, actually, I would say the weakest is actually maybe John Voight. He might be the weakest performance
In this
my
movie,
opinion.
yeah, I don't think he cared that much. In the second one, he gives a much better
Well,
performance. In
I
my
think in
opinion.
the
Yeah.
second one, he had more to do in the second one.
It's true.
But in this one, I love John Voight as an actor. So I felt when I rewatched this Thursday night in the wee hours of the morning, because as usual, I can't sleep on time these days. And I'm sort of thinking, I feel like John Voight's mailing this in. I mean, he's doing a good job, but I feel like he's mailing it in. As opposed
Also,
to Harvey Keitel, who just sold it
mhm.
all the way through. You would say, Ryan, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say also at the same time too, I think John Voight was coming off a long string of movies, including the first Tomb Raider was
Let
came
me
out in
look.
like what, 2002? Was it 2002?
I'll look.
Something like
So
that.
I'll bring up
he had
John Voight.
probably only started filming this movie a year and a half after, you know, finishing production on Tomb Raider. So maybe he was over the history genre. He's like,
Let me look up his filmography real quick.
It's definitely possible. And while you're
That's
looking
not
it up,
him.
the weirdest part about rewatching it this time is this is the first time I've rewatched it in nearly a decade. And the thing that stuck out to me is since watching it for the last time, I played every Assassin's Creed game multiple times.
I knew when I was gonna say, when they bring up the Templar stuff, I wonder what Jed is thinking right now.
It's
when they
so
bring up the
weird
Templar
because
stuff.
it's just ingrained in me now as an Assassin's Creed
Templars
fan.
are evil.
Yeah, Templars being bad, but this movie's very much like they're heroes. They're people to look up to, respectable, and I'm just like, this feels wrong. No.
Okay, so National Treasure 2004. He did 4 movies in 2004. He did
okay.
Manchurian Candidate, he did Super Babies Geniuses 2, and he did The
Which
5 People You Meet in Heaven.
which means he was probably juggling a bunch of movies that overlapped.
And in 2003, he did Holes in Jasper, Texas. So he had been busy for that 2-year period.
Yeah, you never know. He could have been like going, this is the least serious movie. So I'm like, does it really need my full immersion? The answer is no. But after probably the huge success of it, like he was like, okay, well, this probably resonated better than the other movies, like with most audiences at the time.
Yeah.
And it took him a long time to even do a second movie. And then after the second movie, we were clamoring for a third movie, not that dumbass TV show.
Well, that didn't
What
live
TV
long,
show?
did it? Yeah, it didn't last long. It got canceled. It's been canceled, and now and for those of you who are the hardcore fans, unfortunately, thanks to recent comments by Nick Cage, you can get in the third one because.
But those comments make it all worth it. Calling
Yeah.
out Disney will always give brownie points
good
for
points.
me.
All right, so Jed, set up the story for us.
So the story follows the Gates family, who in the late 1800s were given the secret from the last living Freemason that was a clue towards a hidden treasure hidden by the founding fathers of the United States. This family was, for a century, more so than a century, ridiculed for this knowledge that they had because everyone believed they were conspiracy theories. So Nicolas Cage's character, Ben Franklin Gates, went through his life dedicating it to finding this treasure. So going through the clues left by the Freemasons and the Founding Fathers, primarily by Benjamin Franklin. Most of the clues in this film were designed by Benjamin Franklin, all culminating in the treasure map being hidden on the back of the Declaration of Independence. So veer off into a heist film for about half an hour while they figure out the way
It
to
starts
steal
the movie.
Declaration of
That's especially for a movie. And it's just a slight criticism that I have is we go from his prologue, his backstory of why Ben is so interested in it, and then I'd say it's one thing, and you guys may chop me down for this one. I feel as though, I mean, the prologue takes place in 76, was it? Or was it 75?
So the White House has actually already been established, right?
No. I mean Ben when his
young.
when
oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. When he's
I think the 70s. Yeah,
it's 76 or 77. And this obviously takes place in 2003, 2004. Man, he spent a lot of years just getting to Charlotte. He spent a long time just
as we found out throughout the movie is he spent a lot of that time researching, getting his PhDs, getting diving certifications. Like he wanted to be an expert in as many things as possible before finding Charlotte. And from what it sounds like, his dad dedicated his entire life to finding Charlotte, 20 years to finding Charlotte as well. So Charlotte is off the grid. So it doesn't surprise me that it took him 30 years to
okay, all right. I wanted a justification. You gave it to me, so I'm okay with it.
So the whole phrase in which a lot of people who love this movie will understand, the secret lies with Charlotte. It took a long time to figure out what that meant, right?
Well, it has a double meaning too.
Has a double meaning, yes. So it nobody knew what Charlotte was. Is a person? Is this what is this? And so
they have to find out what it is before finding out where it is.
So and finding out the meaning behind it, that Charlotte was a real thing. It was a ship that ultimately and also too, I want to add the fact that, like, I think this has probably one of the best opening sequences of a movie because it's so good because it the way it opens with the scene of the president and he's kind of and then of course it's just the opening sequence. It's very Jerry Bruckheimer and I love it too, like because the score is iconic.
The scale.
Yeah, it sets the scale. The score is iconic. The opening when they're in the Arctic and it's just like this vast thing, and it's like, it's so good. I'm shilling a little bit. Sorry, or geeking out, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
It's fine. Hey,
I'm with you with that. As a kid, I was immediately invested the first time I watched this. It was like, this feels epic, and that's impressive for this appealing to children as much as it does because it's a complicated historical piece. How many kids do we know that are obsessed with history or even interested in it? Not many, but this film managed to balance it in a very good way.
Something that the movie gets a lot of points for me in, though, is that it's reverence for the history and it's reverence for what it means, the birth of the Republic, what it meant to build these things, and how Ben's devotion to history. I mean, it's a funny line when they're at the end there and they're going down to the catacombs and what the hell is the what's blonde chick's name? I don't remember suddenly.
Abigail Chase.
Abigail. Yeah.
When Abigail, when they're falling the stairs and they lose grip on the Declaration, and he drops her, and then when they're safe for a second, he says, "Listen, I'm sorry, but I had to go for the Declaration first." She says, "Oh, don't worry, I would have let you fall too."
She's like, yeah. She's like, I would have dropped you too.
And Riley's just like, you freaks.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's like,
honestly, I gotta say, Riley's the best thing in this for me. Honestly.
Oh yeah, he's the everyman. Even though he's the super genius tech expert, he's just so out of his depth in all of this. So it's a needed piece of a lot of films like this where you have to know a lot about a subject. Is the stand-in for the audience, the ignorant character that things have to be explained to, and he pulls it off so well. Yeah. Well, he needs more work.
It's a good tool, though. It's a very good tool.
Comical relief.
But also, Jed, you bring it up. It is a perfect narrative tool to drop the everyman in there so that you can avoid bad exposition. That way, the exposition, it's not wasted. It's just
instead of having a line like, "As you well know," or "You already know this," and stuff like that, he doesn't. So it makes the exposition flow a lot better.
Yeah, and you don't question it. You go, "Oh, okay." they're explaining it to Riley, and therefore I'm along for the ride of that, and
Exactly.
I'm not wasting my time. I don't feel like they're wasting minutes because this was nearly a 2-hour movie. So
it was up there.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
go ahead, Jed.
Oh,
Go ahead.
oh, go ahead, Jed.
I just want to follow up before we get too far off the track. What you said, Adam, is just how much this movie is reverential towards history. Some of my favorite scenes, like when they first go to the Declaration of Independence, Riley and him, just how he's talking about that line about those who have an ability to take action have a responsibility to take action. Just every time he talks about history, things get quiet. It's just Nicolas Cage's performance, and you believe this man cares more about the history than the treasure, which sets up at the end how he like barely keeps any money. Because it was never about them, like his grandfather said. It was never about the money.
Well, no, I did the math on that. They said it was worth $10 billion at one point.
That's what Nick estimated when he was talking to the FBI agent.
Well, even if it was $10 billion, and even when they split that 1%, they each got $50 million. They each got 50
Well,
million.
I love the line too. Like you're going, Riley's like 10%. They offered you 10% and you turned it down. And he's like, I told you, it's not about the money. He's like, saying you could add a much bigger house.
I know.
Well, it's a great example of that line I've heard quoted. Just the way he says it, his inflection, 10%.
Yes,
had 10%. But this film the dialogue is so strong and so well delivered that there's not really a single line in the movie that I can point to. It's like that was really weak. That shouldn't have been.
The movie doesn't drag. It doesn't drag very often. I mean, I think for maybe only a couple minutes at a time, maybe it does. But the jump from scene to scene, it feels legitimate. The pacing is good. And well, my only problem is the immediate jump in from childhood to adulthood. And I know you guys just said you like the scene. That was kind of my only moment because I haven't seen this movie in a bunch of years. It's been a long time. And I just said, okay, we're going right in here. Okay. And then we're just going to jump to the next thing. All right. But then they make it interesting for me. The heist for the Declaration, they make it interesting.
It's a very good heist.
And I like the juxtaposition of Ben's way to steal it and Ian's way to steal it. Ben, they are being sly, they're being crafty, they're trying to woo their way in there and
do no damage to anything.
No damage. And he even
a
gets
little
distracted.
Mission Impossible-ish too.
And he gets distracted by the pretty girl. He gets distracted by the pretty girl because he has to try and put a move on her one way or the other. Even though his move was to help them get in there, he still got distracted by the pretty girl, whereas Ian is just gonna bulldoze in there and not give a shit. And also has no plan what to do with the Declaration when they get it. I mean, because yes, Ian has means and they might have gotten there eventually, but how much damage would they have done to the document in the process?
That's one of my biggest criticism in the movie is it's a lot of inconsistency with Ian's choices. I love his performance, a lot of the things he does, but like he doesn't try to get another expert after he believes Ben dies. Like I love the sequence of how he gets separated from Ben. Love all that. Even some basic setup and payoff, like he puts his whole arm inside the gunpowder keg and then it lights the flare. Like all that stuff is great. And I understand that, but why didn't he try to get a new expert to study the Declaration? He'd need a replacement for Ben. And throughout the movie, there was a few little things like that, especially at the end, which we can get to when we get to. But why he left them at the bottom of the staircase doesn't track for me because there's an inconsistency when it comes to his intelligence level as well. He recognized the Marshall pipe on sight, which means he has an expertise in history as well. But he doesn't know that 2 lanterns were with Paul Revere. Like he has super in-depth
British.
He's super in-depth expertise.
What if I land 2 if I see
knowledge, but then not even basic level for like One If by Land, Two If by Sea is one of the most quotable moments from the American Revolution. He gets that wrong, but he gets Marshall pipe right. So there's some things.
I mean, it could be the fact that maybe because he's been hanging around with Ben for so long, so that he picked up a lot of the knowledge that he has being his expert, but maybe he's not an expert per se in a lot of things history. Does that kind of make sense? So maybe he has it. I mean,
my biggest
it is
problem,
a flaw. I definitely admit that.
My biggest problem, and he figures out the silence good letter. He figures that.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, but my biggest problem is not with Sean Bean because like you said, Sean Bean, fantastic performance, usually great and everything. Although I would have had him trade in the mullet for something else. I could live without the mullet, but
was it
my
really a mullet?
it is a mullet.
It's just kind of like
It was there. It
longer
was
hair.
There's
Just in general.
no
it was cleaned up in the front enough, and there was party in the
Not
back.
that much. It wasn't really business in the front,
close
party
enough.
in the back.
Close enough. Shut up. Anyway,
Well,
my
it's good to
biggest
be
problem
here. Thanks.
with Ian
Fucker.
is the fact that I'm not outside of greed. What is his motivations for all of this? Greed seems to be it.
Well, that's it kind of motivates a lot of the planet.
It
So I mean,
does.
it's pretty good at motivation.
It's powerful, but it's. I'm just.
We have to remember
more.
how much money this is. It's just next level money.
I know.
Like
I feel like I wanted more out of it. That's all. That's all.
If Ben kept it all, he'd be one of the richest men on the planet.
At the time, sure, I guess early 2000s. Anyway,
yeah. So Ian is rich, but he would absolutely have blown out his portfolio.
I know. That's just thing. I'm just putting it out there.
There is more going on with him, so I do wish we would have gotten more of his backstory.
Yeah,
too,
I mean,
because it's clear
what is he?
No one knows his name. No
That's
one,
I mean,
FBI
he just
doesn't know
seems to
who he
be.
is.
You
He just
stumbled
seems
on
to be
it
a businessman and mercenary to me.
You just stumbled on for him. Clearly, he had a criminal background,
Mhm.
and then where he made his money. But then, what does he do now? I think to me that's the missing ingredient for Ian. For Ian, I wanted a little more. I wanted a little more fleshed out. I want a little more of where he is in the world. What does he do? Why is he doing this? Besides the greed, the greed is enough. I admit that. But if I had his whole what he was, maybe I would feel a little more connected to him as a villain. Because while I respect him as a villain because he's bad, I am not engaged with him as a villain, if that makes sense.
That's why I think the second movie gets a lot of hate unnecessarily. I hate might be the wrong word, but a lot of people put it well below the first one. But the second one has a much more flushed out villain. The villain of that one he's basically Nicolas Cage from the first movie, a family tradition around this myth, and he's so motivated on finding the city of gold. Like his backstory, his motivation ties into it a lot more to a much more compelling degree to
And
even
that
redemption
makes
at the end.
Yeah, and that makes it worth it. That makes it more engaging. And that I think that's the thing. I just wanted Ian outside of being I'm bad and a great Sean Bean performance. I wanted a little bit more. Because right away you get that first part when they're in the Arctic of, oh, as soon as Ben doesn't go along with him, he's ready to kill him. Okay, we're dealing with a bad dude, and we're good with that. And then it goes farther and farther that he's willing to do that. He has the ability. I mean, that's got to be something to say that he can get a helicopter that far into the Hudson, down the Hudson up to.
He's very well connected, very rich, and someone I want to bring this up since we're talking about him. Someone tried to ruin this movie for me once, saying that they intended for him to be gay with Shaw.
Where did that even come from?
In the staircase scene, how sad he is when his friend dies, and he's like, "Do I think any of you matter more to me than Shaw?"
Well, maybe that's because because that's his boy. That's all. That they clearly have been criminals together for years, and he's his number one henchman.
You can't have close male friends. You have to be gay.
Yeah, you have to be. Yeah, you got to be a giant homo.
What are we, Dermy? No, sorry, no, it ain't happening. No. Anyway, right. So
even Dermy's not that bad.
No. Yeah, Dermy, he would sacrifice every one of us. So that's
also at the same time, I didn't really catch the sense that he's really that close with Shaw in the first place, like because he was just kind of like, yeah, it looked like it was kind of a shock, but at the same time, he's like, when he makes that line, do you think any of your lives mean more to me than Shaw's did? It's like, well, their lives don't mean anything to you either. So I can't imagine that Shaw meant the most to you. Like it maybe just like a notch above.
Most loyal of henchmen is what he was.
Yeah. I mean, it's a henchman, whatever.
Yeah. All right, but I guess we're gonna march through the movie. It looks like that's how we're gonna do this right now. The whole Declaration of Independence heist. As I said before, I really like it. I like the juxtaposition. And it jumps from heist to car chase
Very smoothly.
Yeah,
very smoothly. I also like when they. Well, I was just gonna say real quick. I like when they run into each other again too, and he's like Ben, and he's carrying it, and then all of a sudden, Deuce is like, and like he just blocks it with The
Well,
bulletproof
and
vest,
they
like,
did set
that's
up
cool.
Set it up.
bulletproof. They
Yeah,
did.
Set it up.
This
And so-
movie
Exactly,
is so
which
good
I
with little
love.
setup and payoff like
Yeah,
that.
it's a little setup and payoff, and I thought it was just a lot of fun.
One of my favorite parts of this whole heist sequence is in most heists in movies, especially this early on in a movie, there's got to be some fatal flaw that leads into the rest of the movie. You have to expect something's going to go wrong, but this movie, it justified it in a way. In a lot of other movies, it's something so over the top you can't really believe that actually just happened, and it's just like an over the top failure, over the top mistake. But the mistake of Nicolas Cage in the gift shop is so well done. You're like, of course he has to do this. This isn't a mistake. He's in the situation. He's got to use his credit card. And it does help him get away. If he hadn't used his credit card, he would never have gotten out of there with the declaration. So that is a mistake that led to a lot of problems for him. That is completely understandable. That is not like he took a misstep. I really love how they set up that.
It's also the fatal flaw kind of in his reasoning is that he gives that toast. And Abigail's just looking at him. She's like, "You've already talked to me once about
hitting on the girl
this."
too much. Hitting on the girl.
And he makes that speech. It's almost like he guilty conscience, so he's trying to justify it to himself.
He wants to justify it to her because
yes,
he
he does.
wants her to understand. If no one else does, he at least wants her because of the pins, the Washington.
That automatically triggers her because she's like, and
That's
then
a
because
weird
he
thing
just
to say.
Yeah, he just like
And then he
kicks
downs the champagne.
Yeah,
It's like,
and
oh,
she's
you're
like,
Nick Cage is showing.
Can you look up this name on the list for me, please? Yeah, it's so it sets in motion again because as she catches him and she's like, what do you got there? And then he's like, oh, souvenir. Like, and so she immediately, like, as soon as the alarms go off, like she starts screaming, he's got the declaration, he's got the
But then events sweep them up, and now we're off to the races of an adventure movie now because she gets caught up in it. And car chase is well executed, well choreographed. It's done well. And what I actually I especially like the scene after that where they're trying to decide what to do next now that they're on the grid, as Riley put it. And I really do like the way Ben just keeps telling Abigail to shut up, woman. Just shut up.
And he starts out doing it so
you're
sophisticatedly. Like when he first like goes and sits in the front seat or whatnot, he's like, "Your demeanor does not fit the situation."
Yeah,
because that's a big thing with his character. Is he wishes people talked a little more old fashioned. And that's something that I personally agree with. That's something as a writer who loves old literature, I miss how society used to speak, even just in English as a language, and so I relate to that.
You're right, and there's a line in there: people don't talk like this anymore, and and I got to be honest, I think about that all the time because everything I watch these days, depending on the show or the section of whatever genre we're watching, the choice of dialogue is either too current day in a sci-fi movie, Zendaya in Dune 2, I'm looking at you, or it's people dropping F-bombs all the time and everything. It's oversaturation.
Yeah,
trying
it
to be
is.
edgy, and I hate it.
Yeah, I do too. Like especially the oversaturation of F-bombs. Like you don't have to say that much.
Yeah.
Like you really
Like
don't.
Fallout, I'm looking at you.
It's sporadic.
It
It's
fits
in
with
bunches.
the games. I'll say that.
They do it, and I did criticize it myself in my second review, but it waxes and it wanes. All
right, I'll say Last of Us. We're looking at you. The
Last of Us was horrid.
Yeah, that was horrible. But yeah, we talk about this a lot with modern productions, but if we go back and look at like 50s, 60s, even 80s movies, we never criticize them for sounding too 80s or whatnot, too 70s, because they talk better, so their natural vernacular fit better in a period piece than our modern speak. We always say like, this is so Gen Z, this is so modern, feels so out of place.
Something about the past decade of dialect.
It's so simple
that is
and vapid.
And also, and listen, I suffer from it. We all suffer. We all have these words that we'll all repeat. And I'm going to endeavor not to repeat my worst one today, as I usually do on the show. But
you're not going to say it again?
Shut up. You shut up. I'm not going to say it.
What word is this?
No. If
I do it, private chat. I want to know what word this is.
He's going to say it again.
Just shut up, Jed. All right. I work so hard not to say it. Okay.
You
but
should say
no, Jed already said it.
it.
I'm not going to say it.
Put it in the chat.
Well, of course, you put it in the chat. It's a running gag on the show. I will repeat myself in order to have or to transition my phrases because my mouth hasn't caught up with my brain. But either way, there is a problem in modern day dialect where people will use these weird transition words all the time to fill space, or they just talk in a way that has no depth. And that is the point that Nicolas Cage is making this movie. That's the importance of when he's reading that line from the Declaration of Independence. There was a power to those words. It all speaks to education. People aren't educated in the same way. They don't have reverence for society, reverence for where we all came from, reverence for why we're doing these things, and therefore they cheapen everything in a way.
I can't even see college professors of history having as much reference for history as Nicolas Cage does in this movie.
No.
Oh, I completely,
especially not American history.
Completely.
Not the bunch of commies that exist at universities today. Hell no, they don't.
This whole movie is about the reverence of the Declaration of Independence and what it represents to this day. But people don't understand that to this day. So, like, you probably take some modern leftist and they plop them down against this movie and be like, oh, well, the United States is racist. Really?
This movie could not be made today because they were trying to cancel it for being.
Well, there just weren't enough black people or
and
Asians in this movie.
Well, it kind of like Top Gun Maverick. They said it was basically as propaganda for the U.S. Like it's just U.S. propaganda, and it's like no,
it celebrates America. It doesn't talk about its flaws. If you don't talk about all the heinous things America's ever done, you're being bad.
This movie does have criticism. It criticizes government on several occasions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, because again, that's what the founding fathers were critical of, government.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the bureaucracy of the FBI made Nicolas Cage's actions essential.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're into now the hunt to decipher the Declaration of Independence, and we end up at we end up with John Voight. We end up with John Voight, and that's a great little thing where he just says, "Need heat." So you need some heat, and it's in that moment where with the limited heat
thing.
Wait, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, just real quick. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie. I think just between characters where Riley's like going, he's like, I got some duct tape and some rope in the back, and he's like, that's not going to be necessary. He's like, you're not going to cause any problems, right? And she's just looking at him like you were going to tie me up. He's like, you're not going to cause problems. And she's like, fine, I'm not going to cause it. It forces her to say. He's like, see, she's interested.
And then when she after the first time to run away, it's a great moment because later on she has a chance to leave. And says, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah,
and
when he without even thinking about it, hands her the Declaration in Philly when he's trying to get his $100 back.
Yeah,
like they didn't even think about it.
Yeah, because after the whole lemons and heat thing, she is totally on board then because suddenly he's not crazy. He's not
the moment she takes that lemon, she's in. Like she says, I'm so getting fired for it. That's when she's invested. That's the point of no return for her.
And during this period of time, the FBI gets involved. We get Harvey Keitel's agent, and
he's so good.
Harvey Keitel is so
He's
good,
brilliant,
and his performance is great. And I love his character. I'm going to just jump ahead a minute here to when Ben has been busted and he's been captured by the FBI. I honestly, as I said, I've only seen this movie 3, maybe 4 times. I'm going to say 3 at this point. I'm going to say 3 times.
I've seen it like 20.
Well, it's not on my shelf, and as I said, it's not something I go back to.
Is that not on your shelf?
Because I like it, but it's my show. He can't get me out. It's my show. I could kick all of you out and be here by myself. See, look, watch this. Hey, look now. It's just the Adam show. Look, see, Adam gets to now talk all by himself while they sit in the back because I can do what I want. See, there we go. Now we're all back, and we can continue to talk civilly with each other.
Anyway, it's weird. You lost viewers on that.
You're not going to cause problems, are you? You're not going to cause any more problems, are you? No, you're not. Anyway, but what I like the moment, and I want to put this to you guys, and I'm saying this because you've seen this more than I have, and I picked up on it on this watch through, and I want to know if you guys always saw this. When it's after they've gotten the glasses, and he only looked at the Declaration the first time, and Harvey Keitel has him in custody, and he's asking him about it, and while he's semi-interrogating Ben, he's playing
with the glasses. That's
Mhm.
why I was like, and he's like,
And it and we don't, of course, we don't know until the final couple scenes that he's a Freemason.
Mhm.
Is he helping Ben in that moment?
It's
You-
possible. I've never scrapped that.
yeah, I would say it's possible, but I don't think so.
That's a
It's
natural nervous tick. That's a natural
yeah,
thing to do.
Okay.
So natural, in fact, that I'm baffled Nicolas Cage didn't look at those glasses immediately, think, oh, there's multiple lenses. Like I find that very odd for his intelligent
Mhm.
character
Yeah.
to not look at
Well, they didn't
glasses
exactly
with-
have time. They were kind of pressed
It's
for
true.
time.
It is
in that
true,
moment.
but that would be the first thing I would think when I look at these glasses.
Mhm. So I see. To me, I'm watching. I'm thinking, knowing where the movie's going because I've seen the movie before. Knowing
Mhm.
that Harvey Keitel's character is a Mason, was he playing with the glasses, being a Mason who probably knew where it was, the treasure was the entire time?
Maybe.
I'm gonna wager that the Masons knew where it was at that point.
I
And
might actually lean towards probably not. The only
well,
reason
yeah,
I
I
say
think
that
it's
is
a
because
50-50. It's 50.
I just because I think their knowledge of the treasure and its significance, it has been passed down, but I don't think necessarily the knowledge to all Freemasons of where it
Here's
is has been passed
here's
down.
why I think he knows what he knew where it was, but was happy leaving it there because he needed somebody like Ben to be the person to find it, who was willing to say it belongs to everybody, belongs to the people, it belongs to where it
Oh,
came from.
the Freemasons could have just done that themselves then.
But they could have done it themselves, but it looks better if somebody like the Gates family, who are deeply associated with
Well,
this thing,
they're,
becomes
they're so
involved. And
deeply
natural.
if they're worried about someone outside, they want someone from outside the Masons to discover it. The Gates family is too intricately tied to this
Mm.
whole conspiracy theory to
I'm just
be
posing
reasonably
questions.
separate.
I'm just putting it out there.
I believe they intentionally hid it from their own organization. I don't think he
Yep.
knew. I think it's better if he doesn't know.
Okay.
But
Well, I'm just
now,
putting it out there as a novice of this movie. I'm just
Mhm.
putting it out there
obviously
to
he
you guys as well.
understands the significance because
Yeah, of
he
course.
says that basically that it was hidden for a reason, that it's something that and Ben picks up on that and he's like, well, I think that their reasoning behind it could work for the treasure as well. Give it to the people. And I think that actually kind of, takes back Harvey's character a little bit. He's like, okay. And he's like, give it to the Louvre, the Cairo Museum, the Smithsonian, all that kind of stuff. And he's like,
Yes.
he's like, he's like, you really don't understand the definition of a bargaining chip. And the same thing with the Declaration of Independence,
Mhm.
because he just hands it over and he's like, just like that, and he's like, just like that.
Yeah, it's about preserving, respecting these things. Just and that's why it's the Indiana Jones line. It belongs in a museum. Same kind of
Yeah.
thing. Somebody who's in it for the right reasons.
Yep.
It's not about the fortune and glory, and that's why Temple of Doom, when we talk about Indiana Jones, is an important movie because that's Indy before he realizes shit needs to belong in a museum. He's still seeking fortune and glory. Ben, for him, it always was about the history, the importance, the
Mhm.
reverence, why these things should be where the people can look at them, and that's what he means by give it to the people. Put it
Mhm.
out there. Let
Mhm.
them be able to tangibly appreciate the historical significance, not just from America, because this is the Templar Horde,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
these are things that belong to the entire world.
And once you see the treasure, you understand that
Mhm.
it has come from the world.
Everywhere.
It has
Yeah.
been collected
Mhm.
everywhere from the world. Scrolls from the library of
Oh,
at Alexandria.
I
Go ahead, dude.
love I love that moment in particular because that is what she is too. She's very much of the same mindset of Nicolas Cage. Is like this is
Mhm.
about knowledge. This is about bringing this to the people because of collecting the Washington buttons, which is a big connection moment between her and Ben. But she goes straight to the scrolls, and if I'm being honest, that's exactly what I would do too because that's an era
And
when that library crashed. Those scrolls would be things that I'm interested
those are
in, like
things that are
ancient Greek
lost.
literature.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
And you don't. Well, let's talk about saying that theory there. Where everybody goes to things first. I love how John Voight goes to the emblem
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
the
Because
Freemasons, the
he's had a
Templars.
crisis of faith this whole
Yeah.
movie and for
Yeah.
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah. And when they thought there was nothing there, he had been restored because he looked at Ben and says, "But you were right,
This is
and it
proof.
proves it was here."
Yeah.
And
He's
it's
like, and
okay.
he utters a line too. He's like, I've never been so proud to be so wrong, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he doubted his son, and it caused a huge rift between them
Mhm.
for the better part of what, a decade.
Probably
I think
20,
they
2 decades,
is
easily
it
2
two
Yeah.
decades.
decades? Okay.
Yeah,
Um.
throughout the 80s and the 90s, easily they didn't have a good relationship. So
So, but also at the same time too, like the fact that he wants to give it over to the people, he doesn't want to keep it for himself. And in the end, he ultimately doesn't keep the 10% he's offered. He takes only the 1% that everybody else was offered, is because he's like, it was too much. It goes against his morality. And it's one reason
I'm
too.
not
And
that moral. I want all that money right now.
Oh,
um,
I would take a little bit
well,
more than
I
him.
just got slapped with another unnecessary bill that I screwed up on. I will
Well,
take that money.
the biggest thing he's not thinking about too is he's not going to be able to afford property taxes on that
yeah.
mansion.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and again, also at the same time, it alludes to the fact of why he ultimately ends up winning Abigail over in the end, because she was completely, wrong about him. He's been right about all these things, and not just that. It's just that, and not that he just loves history as much as her. It's that he's this morally good person, and so I mean, ultimately he wins her over too. And and Riley says at the end of it, he's like, it's not like you got the girl, and he's just like kind of like naming things off. And that's when he says, he's like, 10%. They offered you 10% and you turned it down.
I like it when he gets in his Ferrari and
For
you hear the grind.
He doesn't know how
grinding
to
the gears.
do it. And he like drives off the road for a second.
It's a bad turn. It's just
I love
But
Riley. Like the same way
Riley's
when he
great.
was driving in the van during the car chase, he doesn't know what he's doing, and that's the case for the whole movie. When he's at his computer, he's okay, but the rest of the time, he is just confused.
Here's one thing I didn't get. When he bribes the kid to go get the letters from the letter, that kid did it for $1.
$1 each.
Mm-hmm. Each line.
But that's 4 letters. There's a lot of letters, so
I
it
mean,
was
yeah, but
probably
at
in the
most
end, like
it looked like maybe it was $10 at the most.
No, he probably walked away with like $30. The kid did.
Yeah, 30, $40. Like
Yeah.
there was a lot of letters, a lot.
Was
of
it for each
trips.
letter? I thought it was for each go
4.
in there.
Each 4 letters.
Oh, it was a buck for. I thought he was getting
Yeah.
just a buck for each going in and out.
No.
I
Well,
misinterpreted
it took
that. Okay.
he'd go in for 4 letters at a time.
Yeah,
So yes, it
but
was $1 per trip. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
still-
$1 per trip. So
because he says he's like, here you go. He's like, go get the last 4 letters. He's like, come on, champ. Like, or like he's also kind of condescending to the kid.
I know, yeah. But I really liked that scene, but it was Bob like, man, that kid's working for the cheap. At least get $5 a trip.
Well, I also kind of like it too, because like so obviously Riley is kind of like, crapped on a little bit throughout the whole movie, because he doesn't know as much, right, about all this kind of stuff. And he gets tired of, because like, especially with Ben and Abigail both knowing things, and he's like going, there's even that line where he's
I
like,
know
wait,
something you don't know.
he's like, wait, he's
This is
like,
a
hold
great
up.
moment.
He's like, wait, I know something you don't. And Ben's like, I'd be very interested in learning about it, Riley. Like he gets like really intense about it.
I want to bask in this for a moment.
Yeah, it's funny because Riley has the chance to kind of like, I guess, kind of like kick the kid a little bit, and he's like, come on, champ. Just like, it's so condescending. And he's like, finally, I'm smarter. Like, it's a well fleshed out character.
I actually have 2 pieces of criticism. One's for each of those scenes that you're talking about. The quick one is the daylight savings one. Yes, the time difference does matter, but the date would also matter. That's the Spire Shadow wouldn't cast.
That was
in
a
the same
little
spot
bit of a
at that
stretch for
time
me.
every year, every day of the year. It would have to be a specific date as well, but then that would create a problem of, it's coincidentally next week or whatever, like other things do it when it comes to a specific date like that. That
that's
was
a little bit of a stretch.
That one's a little bit different. But my other question is, how did Nicolas Cage or Ben early in the movie get the scans of the Silence Do-Good letters? I assume they were just on the internet, so why not download them from the internet again? Because those were photo scans and they were printed off.
Yeah, because he doesn't have a good relationship with his father. So how did he?
Well, yeah, because his family actually had the Silence Do-Good letters. They found
it's implied that his dad got them after he left. Like, he's never seen them. Nick said he never saw them in person. So how did he get the scans?
He knows his dad has them, because he's like, Dad, he's like, I need the Silence.
But he didn't know he had them.
Letters. Yeah, and then he's like, I don't have them.
Had them. So
those were
you bring up
fresh
a point.
printed out
Yeah.
copies that he had in his lab. So he printed those off recently, which means he had a digital file, which it means it was probably on the internet. I'm assuming he downloaded from the internet. So would it be easier to
I
give
think
a kid
well,
$20 to go to a library and print them off?
maybe that.
I always kind of lean towards the fact that like he knew his dad had them before the fact, but and then after the giant falling out, his dad was like, "Well, this is nonsense. I don't want anything to do with this." And since he's like, "Well, I'm not going to basically lend to my son's, I guess probably addiction, right? It'd be an addiction. That's what
Yeah.
obsession is in a sense. I'm not going to lend to my son's addiction, so I'm going to give them away." And so
No. I get why his dad gave them
No,
away.
we're just trying to line up when did he actually
When
get
did
the
he get the
scans.
photocopies?
That's
How
what we're
did he
trying to
get the
line up.
photocopies?
If they had
we
their
know his dad had
the core of it
letters.
is that if they had a falling out, there's no way he could have gone in there and scanned them himself. So when
Yeah.
and how did he get them? Especially
I
if
would
he didn't
probably
know,
assume
he
you
didn't
can
know
probably
that
get
his dad had
copies of them
given.
on the internet.
Which is what I'm saying. Then why does he need to send the black kid?
But then
in
also,
to get the letters?
how are there copies on the internet if he didn't know his dad already gave them away, which is when they would have been scanned?
Because
And
he had him for long enough that scanning wasn't a thing.
I mean,
yeah,
there's
that's a little hiccup. I can see it. It's a little hiccup. I can see that.
yeah, I guess I can. Yeah, I can kind of see that. I never really scrutinized that point, to be honest.
That's what Jed does. He looks for it.
Just wants to shit on everything I love right now. Thanks, Jed.
Hey, see, that's how I feel. All
It's my job. I still love this movie implicitly. If I were doing this as a subjective review, I'd give this movie a 10, like easily, no questions asked. But I try to think about these things.
Yeah,
Try to.
Yeah, gonna ruin it for everybody. Got to piss in the punch bowl. We pretty much covered most of this. We haven't really talked about Abigail that much. As far as Abigail as a character, I feel she's just kind of
she's the female Nick Cage.
Yeah, and she just kind of slides in there. She's there for the banter with him in the beginning, and then for the connection purposes, and just a good character all around. I have no complaints about Abigail. No, there's no problem. She is able to deliver her impact on the movie without being an overpowered women's.
Well, and Diane Kruger is a well-established actress too. She's very good. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything. Also, just for the record, shout out to Disney allowing her to wear her dress with her boobs out like that, because saying, look, modern Disney would have been like, well, that's not okay.
Yeah,
they'd have to uglify
definitely
her.
Sexuality in this
yes,
movie.
she's a very pretty woman, and you know, it alludes to something that, like, you know, we're going to talk about tomorrow. You know, it's okay for women to be pretty. It's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all right. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's something else with their character I want to mention is when she was in the first conversation with Ben and Riley, she mentions that she's from Germany. And I actually love that aspect of her character, because just like Ben shows so much reverence to ancient America, to the American founding fathers and what America means, a big part of that was legitimate immigration. And she represents that. And I just love that aspect of the film, because this isn't her culture, but she's come to love it.
She says, I am an American. She says, I'm an American.
She doesn't say German American. She doesn't think of herself as German first. And her love rivals Ben's for history, to the point where she's entrusted with the Declaration of Independence. And I love that she's a legitimate American, because she put in the work and she loves this country.
Yeah,
and it's just a beautiful piece of the film, because that is the mentality of the founding fathers that Ben ascribes to. So she's a perfect embodiment of that.
Well, and they also can showcase that too, right? Because she says that German word. I can't. Don't ask me to say it, but and then Ben says, he's like, I'm pretty sure you're still yelling. And Riley's like, I think she's swearing also, like, because she calls him something in German, and it's a very, you know, she's not this perfect character. It shows that she has flaws. She gets frustrated. She gets irritated, right? But she's the one who ultimately, because we know as the audience, she's the one that's wrong. But from her standpoint, she thinks she's right. She thinks they're the crazy ones,
which is legitimate.
All she
Yeah.
sees, she just sees two guys who stole the Declaration of Independence
in a van. Like that's and might have kidnapped her at this point. She could argue
Yeah.
for that. She doesn't know if they're telling the truth about being on a different side from Ian. Like she's 100% justified. That's why Ben says we probably deserve that when Riley says she's swearing. Like they probably do.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of a movie that has characters who are decently flushed out, who are decently given things to do, who are given excellent chances to have good banter, where they can develop connections and relationships instead of just talking at each other and using quippy remarks of bad MCU sarcasm, because that's what we get these days. We don't get characters having actual interactions that develop their personalities and make us like them. We like Ben. We like Abigail. We like Riley because, yes, is there comedy thrown in there? True. But they have these moments where you see the character and then they interact with each other and it blossoms into full on growth of all this stuff.
She's not, and she's not just a pain in the ass throughout the movie, just to be a pain in the ass. She's a pain in the ass in the beginning because she thinks they're crazy.
Yeah.
But when she comes around, she's like, she changes her attitude. She's like, with the line, it's like when she says, I'm so getting fired for this. It's like going, all of a sudden, now she looks crazy too. And she's believing the crazy guys because she's like, holy crap.
Well,
and then as soon as the reveal, she gets very excited and she's like,
because it's changing. Here's the thing about a true historian. You may be wedded to the things you know and things you studied, but when you get something that not necessarily changes your belief system, but adds to the history, you want that because suddenly you're getting the true history. You're getting something that has been missed all this time and now can be added to the lore. And that's what makes somebody who loves this stuff truly excited. And that's what we get from Abigail, someone who's true, because Ben believed it the whole time. But Abigail needed to be convinced. And then you get that glimpse of who she really is. She is the true historian. She wants this stuff. She doesn't want to simply deny it because it doesn't fit in with the well-regimented normal history everybody needs to believe. No, if this is what happened, I'm ready to accept it.
Which is something we actually see in legitimate history in today's world. Like going, all these things that have been discovered, we're finding stone workings and stuff like that, like Puma Punku and all that kind of stuff that are like 20,000 years old or whatever it is. And it's like because people are so wedded to their ideology nowadays that like they won't admit like, well, it looks like I was wrong. You have to change your opinion. Her character is not that. This is back when people could say, I was wrong. I want to know more.
Listen, this week's Natural 20, I started my show talking about it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to admit you're wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. I have admitted I'm going on possibly 3 things I've had to admit I was wrong on this week. Sorry for the sidetrack, but it means part of the conversation here. I've had to admit it looks like I may have been wrong for all my ranting and ravings about X-Men 97 prior to its release. But then again, I also say, God damn it.
I actually didn't hear it if you wouldn't have said it.
I would have noticed. It's not one of those filler words that people notice, like
Yeah, like
I paired it this time, but I paired it so it could have gone on crazy. But I had been committed to not even saying it once this episode today.
People only know that that's a thing because you make it a thing. If you pretended it didn't exist, it would cease.
Listen, I've pretended before, but I made a big point earlier. I wasn't going to say it the entire episode. And
after Jed put it in the private chat, I was like, all right, I was listening for like 5 minutes thinking you were going to do it. And then I just the draw of them talking about the movie pulled me back in. So I
get going. And it slips out. That's my bad word of the moment that in everything I do. That's my bad word that shouldn't even be there half the time. Anyway, see, I forgot what I was saying too.
It's okay to be wrong. Look,
So
this guy,
X-Men 97. So that looks like I still got 5 episodes to go. It's not done yet. It still may turn on its head. But if guys like Bo DeMeo had kept his mouth shut, I wouldn't have had anything to say, and the show then would have spoke for itself.
How much is left?
5 episodes. 5 weeks.
That's a lot.
It could
less.
still go.
I'd wait till it's over before you make a statement.
Well, no,
like
I
that.
said I could be wrong.
You could be
because
wrong,
of what's going on. But that was my point. I could be wrong. Just like it looks like I am likely to be wrong about everything I said about Fallout. So, but I can admit I'm wrong.
I was one of the biggest people who was like, I think this is gonna be awful.
Yeah, but I get heat for these things. Whenever I make a take and I get heat, fine. But I'm never afraid to admit I'm wrong. Because if I'm wrong, and I didn't say man enough, I said adult enough. But since we're here, it's if you're man enough to say you're wrong, say it. It doesn't take anything away because it just shows you're fallible.
Yeah, it shows you
and we
humility,
want
by the
to
way.
be wrong half the time when it comes to stuff like this because we want nothing more than good entertainment. So when we're wrong, we still get rewarded. Like we still get a good product.
But some people want us to be so. They want us to feel so devastated that we're wrong. They want to pile on us when we're wrong, and
Well, it's
that
because
shouldn't
they
be
feel
the
bad
thing.
about themselves, right?
Yeah, I
like
mean,
they can't admit their own flaws. Like because
Yeah.
to admit your flaws is for human growth.
Yeah.
These people who call us all these names and then try to dunk on us when we admit we're wrong. It's because they're the ones who are flawed human
And
beings.
now to go back to what we're talking. Why we're talking about this? For Abigail to admit she was wrong was
It's a
not
big moment.
weakness. Yeah, and she goes all in, and then she actually finds something more out of all this.
Yep.
And that's a little that's movie magic, it's movie romance. Yeah. And but even at the
I
end
might
of the
fall
movie,
for Nicolas Cage in this movie if I was.
I
in
am
it.
not falling for Nicolas Cage. No, I'm not kidding. But but even so, the end of the movie, it's been 3 months since the scene where Ian gets arrested. So they've been dating for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
fair amount of time.
They're giving it a go, and they're clearly making it work. To round this out now, I got to say though, one of my favorite moments in the movie is the church scene where Harvey Keitel's saying, giving you're terrible at bargaining, and Nicolas Cage goes, "I would really love to not go to prison." I like his delivery there. That has stuck with me every time I've seen this movie. It's
so relatable.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. I would not want to go to prison.
Well,
also
the line delivered back, and he's like, "Someone's got to go to prison, Ben." Yeah. And he's like, "Well, if you got a helicopter," and he's like, "I can,"
I mean, it's not just the Templar pulling strings. It's something that happens in the law enforcement all the time. Is if you can bring in a bigger fish, witness protection is a thing for a reason. And Ian is definitely a bigger fish than Ben.
He is a criminal. He is a full-on criminal who has probably done a lot of things. And we go back to the problem earlier. I would have liked to know a little more about Ian to know why he's a bigger fish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, breaking and entering is like low on the totem pole because obviously in this movie we see him, commit assault with a deadly weapon. Maybe even if you wanted to stretch it as far, maybe attempted murder.
Definitely attempted murder. He did try. Yes, it happened on Antarctica. He did try to kill Ben and Riley.
Well,
they shot him in DC. They shot at him. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, they shot the glass. You can clearly see so.
The beginning said he was north of the Arctic Circle, so that would still be Canadian waters, maybe.
Well, there are no laws in Canada anyway. Laws that I care about. Anyway, you guys mentioned before, soundtrack's good.
Very good.
For you guys, it elevates the movie, doesn't it? For you,
absolutely.
Yes. From the opening sequence, it is just nonstop. I can hear that theme in my head, and they sprinkle it throughout the whole movie in different iterations when they're kind of like maybe trying to figure something out. And it's just that theme, the main theme is so malleable. It's incredible.
I missed who the composer was. Do we know this?
I don't know.
It was someone I'd never heard of before.
No. And
no, wait, it's not taped.
It's not taped. We just did with this show. We generally don't interact with the audience as much because that's the way this show.
Yeah, Trevor Robin.
Yeah. But Trevor, okay, I've never heard of him, but he does a good job. And it does elevate the movie, which is what we always ask of a soundtrack. And scenes that require a specific track to make it the scene. and it works. And that's when that's the qualifications for something being elevated. Right. So you guys want to add anything else? Because I've said all I want to say.
Trying to put nostalgia aside, because I'd probably lean towards 10 out of 10. I think it's a solid 8.5,
Okay, that's your
maybe
score?
even debatable a 9.
I was going to give you the first score anyway, so that's okay.
Yeah. So, but I just want to say this is peak Disney, and this movie in
Well-
Pirates of the Caribbean is one of the reasons Disney was my favorite leading into the MCU and them buying
Bring that
Star
up.
Wars. And
This is 2004,
yes,
and Michael Eisner's still in charge.
yes,
This is that 2000. This is the end of. We're past Renaissance Disney. We're into whatever you
Yeah.
call the era in late 90s, early
Mhm.
2000s. And that's this stretch from 2000 to 2007, right before Bobblehead took over, had a streak of excellent films
Mhm.
that were the last great true Disney films, whether it's a live
Mhm.
action movie like this, whether it's Tangled, when you
Yep.
talk about animation.
Tangled's
It's the
incredible.
last thing. And then Bob Iger takes over and you get Frozen. I'm sorry if you like Frozen. It's a soulless movie.
I like Frozen.
It's
But
I
it's
liked it.
soulless. It's just the songs.
I
That's
liked
all
it.
it is. It's just the songs. You have to. It is.
No, I liked Elsa. Actually, ironically, Elsa and Olaf were no. What the hell's the snowman's name?
Olaf.
I think that is.
Is it Olaf?
the
Okay.
Snowman.
Okay, yeah. So I was right. Yeah, Elsa and Olaf are my favorite.
Why did I know that?
Because you're. I'm gonna say it. Anyway.
I hate
All right.
that movie.
Jed, it is your week, so you get to score before I do.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I absolutely adore this film. If I were going subjectively, kind of like Ryan said, I'd be giving this a 10 out of 10, but I do always try to strive for objectivity. And there are flaws in it that I see. Not very many. It is a damn tight movie when it comes to the script and the performances. It is
Editing,
very-
dialogue, all of it.
It's top to bottom.
And
incredibly well done.
cinematography of those national monuments.
Mhm. Oh yes, and just the reverence for history, because this movie actually influenced my life a lot. In my early teen years, I became obsessed with the American Revolution to a very strong degree. I studied that historical era a lot because of this film, so it has a substantial influence on my life, and just that reverence for early America is something that I carry to this day. So it's a lot of nostalgia for it, but the biggest flaws I see are with Ian's character. I totally understand why he left Ben for dead at the beginning of the movie. That one makes total sense because, there's a bunch of gunpowder going to go off, but him leaving him at the bottom of the staircase just always felt weak to me, because the rest of the movie, he's very smart, showing expertise in Silence Too Good, showing expertise in a bunch of other areas, recognizing the pipe on site, to not knowing that there were 2 lanterns with Paul Revere. Like, that was too much of a stretch for me. And a couple other little things like that, ones that we've already mentioned, like with the Silence Too Good letter. So there are flaws that I do have to take away from this film's overall score. In the end, I think the balance I find is at 7.5. I love this movie and I can rewatch it any day, every day. But there are flaws.
Okay, and Jed, I'm right there with you. I give it a 7.5 out of 10 simply because I enjoy this movie. It's a fun movie. It's got no agenda in it. It is actually a positive thing about, you guys said, history. It's a positive message about respect where we came from. We mentioned the word reverence over and over again. It's performed well. It's got a really great cast. Even though, as I said earlier, I think John Voight kind of mails it in. But as you said, he doesn't mail it in the second movie. But overall, I'll never turn it off if it's on. But I'm not as deeply connected to it, I think, as many of you are, either here or in the chat or people watching on the replay. So I give it a 7.5 out of 10 too, just because it's a quality movie. It's fun. I think everybody should watch it. And if you like it, get the sequel and have a good time. It's just a fun movie. It's a fun movie when movies are still fun and when Disney was still all about escapism, entertainment. And that's what's most important here. So there you go.
And there was treasure to be found at Disney, as Nick put it.
It doesn't exist, so don't ever turn that on if you love the first 2 movies.
I refuse to watch it.
I just watched ads make fun of it for as long as
I could only make it halfway through. That's how bad it was.
It didn't bother. Yeah.
Well, and we didn't mention it, but the supporting cast is full of other characters
Oh,
too. Like
you
one of the
see
main
people, yeah, all over.
one of the main FBI agents plays Lucifer in Supernatural.
Yep, John
and-
Paglium. I never get his
and-
last name right. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't say
he's
his last name.
great. When he's a bad guy, oh, does he
He's-
sell it?
He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But someone else who's in it is I recently rewatched The Good Part of NCIS and Trent Court, the CIA agent.
Court. That's every time I see that dude, he's Court. He's
Okay,
Court
so
every time.
I do love some NCIS. What is the good part to you?
Well, the golden age is when Ziva's on the show.
Yeah,
those 7 seasons that she's on. That's
So
like the golden.
well, I got warmed up to her actually, so I'm not going to say I disagree. I think the first
love
2
it.
seasons are my favorite.
Well, that's
they're
the
up there.
original.
They're
Yeah.
very high up
But-
there. But I prefer Ziva to Kate mainly because of the dynamic with Tony. But the show ends for me when Tony leaves. I actually this time was the first time I watched farther. I'd seen a few seasons beyond that, but I specifically chose like Abby's farewell. Specifically chose Gibbs's farewell. Gibbs's farewell is terrible. He straight up says,
I had tapped out by then. I tapped out 3 years ago.
I'll just say that his farewell is fine enough, but something he says is the most important thing he's done in his life was save an environment in Alaska.
Oh god, see that that's kind of why I think Mark Harmon left, because the show wasn't the show anymore.
It was bad. The Ducky episode from last year, though, the farewell for when the actor died, that one is actually
David McCallum.
really
R.I.P.
good.
David McCallum.
He's phenomenal. But that episode was written by the actor who played Palmer. It was written by him, and that episode alone is fantastic. Like it feels like it's part of old.
Did you guys know? Amidst the many spin-offs, there's a Tony Ziva spin-off about to happen.
Yes.
Is there?
NCIS Europe right now.
Wait,
About them in Paris.
Tony and Ziva are getting their own show. Yes.
Wait, with them coming back, the two of them.
Yes.
Same
Because Ziva's alive. So
yeah, that one I might actually watch
kind of
because
after where I tapped out. As soon as Ziva was alive, I thought, you know what? That's enough for me. Although they should have gotten Weatherly to come across the hall from.
He comes back for the Ducky episode. The Ducky.
I know that.
episode.
I knew that happened. But
That's
I
a great
needed
moment.
I needed her to get off the plane and hug Tony and Tolly.
We needed
I needed that in her final part. I needed that, and I didn't get it.
I will have to say is after finishing NCIS, or at least what I was watching, I decided to check out Michael Weatherly's show that he left NCIS for.
It was a good show up to a point.
I haven't finished the first season yet, but
First season was tight.
really good. I'm
First season's
very
excellent.
impressed with
First
it.
season's
Oh my
excellent.
God.
And the problem is, they were supposed to have Eliza Dushku come back, but she had some off-camera issue with
Which
Mike
one is that?
She played Faith in Buffy. She was the lawyer. She was the lawyer at the end.
Okay. I didn't realize that was Faith. But
it was Eliza- I had a thing for Eliza Dushku for years, man. She was like my.
I did after the fucking first Bring It On movie. She was so hot in that with the bathing suit. I was very much a teenager, so I think I was like 16. So don't hold it against me, hormonal raging. But
yeah, but
she's
that's a beautiful one. That's a beautiful one.
Yeah,
The best thing about Bull is that the first season came out partially in 2017. So Trump, I was worried it was going to be political. They made one Trump joke, and it's totally fine. They said the only person who talks in the third person more than you is Trump and Elmo.
And here's the Bull was good for about 2.5 seasons. In season 3, it starts to fall off, and then I tapped out because they get farther and farther away from the premise of what they set up, and it just keeps getting farther and farther away from it. And it just kind of lost its way, and I tapped out midway through the second to last season.
At least
I got bored. I got bored.
I know you guys like freaking NCIS though. Like going usually that's like old people show.
I worship that show for years.
Look, and again, I had a hard time with Ziva the first couple of seasons because she just seemed so stiff. But then all of a sudden there was like this shift, right? And it felt like she fit better. And so, yeah, by the time she left, that was it for me. I was like, I don't want to.
That is a good out point, but I would go all the way to Tony's farewell because his closure, I really love his closure. Because Ziva just kind of leaves. It's very unfulfilling when Ziva leaves, but when Tony leaves, it's very fulfilling.
And then he thinks she's dead, of course. And when he ganks Court, when he ganks Court, it was so good. It was so good.
Yeah, but I think I owned through like season 8 or 9.
My mom used to collect them, and then I told her to stop collecting them because I said, listen, it's not over. It's not getting any better. The spinoffs are tanking. She really liked LA. Wow, we've really gone off on a tangent.
LA is, I would say, the best one. I haven't seen most of them, but the
New
spinoffs
Orleans
are
is
terrible.
great for the first 2 seasons, and then final season during Coof period, they went super agenda, and I said, that's it, I'm out.
Doesn't surprise. Well, Palmer's wife, I don't know if you know this.
She
Adam,
died over
of the Coof. She died from the Coof.
That was about it was. That's when I said I'm out. During the Coof season, I was done.
I can't watch it, especially with Gibbs gone and that other guy.
Listen, I always said the show
without Mark Harmon. No,
that's what I said. It goes as long as Mark Harmon wants to do it.
No original cast left now.
There's none. No, I mean, because remember,
McGee isn't.
McGee is not guest. He
was
appears
a guest star
in season 1, but he's not main cast until season 2. So
well, see, my big issue with the fact that Mark Harmon finally left is that there were a lot of the reason that I can't think of her fucking name either.
Paulie Perrette, Abby. Yeah, she left because she became insane. If you notice, Jed, in that final season, Mark Harmon and Paulie Perrette do not share a single scene together.
I noticed it most in her final episode where she has to leave him a note, and that's their big goodbye. And it's like these characters are close. They're some of the closest.
We got to shut this down. I'm gonna have to edit this out of the episode because we
don't edit it out. This is raw, bitch.
This is a drive-in now at this point. This is Mellow Mondays essentially. Now we're doing a Mellow Mondays thing. So
I don't ever get to make it to Mellow Mondays. Like, give me this.
That's not my fault. That's not my fault.
I'm doing House of the Dragon, fucker. Like, don't be.
Yeah,
a dick.
well, that's not my problem. That you had to schedule your show same as mine. Anyway,
but Adam and Ryan turning more pink by the second. What the hell does that mean?
What? I don't know. It's the chat. Let them do what they want.
It's Anna. She's really
it's Anna. I didn't have the chat up. Listen, I'm not going to take an Anna troll, and I'm gonna walk away from that. I'm not going to let Anna troll me. Anyway, guys, thank you one and all for being here. If you stuck through the NCIS tangent, which can happen. Normally, it happens on a different show. But anyway, thank you one and all, guys. Hit the like button. Thank you to Ryan for being here today. Ryan, you want to pimp anything this week?
We're doing House of the Dragon on Monday. We've taken a little bit of hiatus from hunting HITLER, or also known as Mustache Man. I haven't talked to the group and figured out if they want to do it tomorrow. If not, check us out on Legion Talk for House of the Dragon episode 3, season 1, episode 3.
You're getting ready for the June, aren't you?
Yes, we are. We're hard charging. Because we want to actively review House of the Dragon season 2.
I'm gonna power through season 1 so that I'm ready, because I am doing my season 2 review, but it's the non-fan review. It's Mr. I have no horse in this race. I don't really care, because people said, since you don't care, we want to see your perspective on it.
Just be prepared for the second to last episode of season.
I know what happened. I know everything happened. I watch everybody's reviews. I just need to actually watch the show. If I'm going to cover season 2, I actually have to watch the first season.
No, of course.
So,
Ken, why you got to keep pissing in the punch bowl, man? What are you doing?
What? I'm not a germ fan.
No, I was giving Jed a hard time. Because no, there are active criticisms of House of the Dragon season 1. But all in all, I'd say it's good. It really is made up for a lot of the nonsense that happened. With
I'm there for right now. I can say this. I'm probably really just there for Matt Smith. That's all.
Hey, that is a good reason to be somewhere.
That's a great reason to be there.
Yeah, I'm all in for some Matt Smith.
Especially the end of episode 3. Do you remember?
I know what happened.
The messenger scene is just fantastic.
Like I said, I know what happened. I just actually see it, because if I'm going to comment on season 2, I need to be caught up. So
episode 8, though, with Patty Constantine, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, so
no,
I'm not
going to edit more out.
No, I'm not. No, this is out. I'm not getting anything. I'm going to leave it all in there. It's part of the show. I'm not going to change anything. Anyway, thank you one and all for being here. Hit the like button. Subscribe to everybody's channels. We will see you guys next week. Oh, I didn't say what we're doing today. Jed, we're watching The Hunt for Red October next week.
Ooh, it's a good movie. I have seen it this time. I have seen the movie.
We're gonna put all feelings of Alec Baldwin aside, and
he's so young, I can barely
appreciate the first of the Tom Clancy movies put to.
It's a Sean Connery movie.
God, it's so
good. Yeah, I'm about to say, who gives a shit about Alec Baldwin? Sean Connery.
Here's my wish, and I'll say this again this week. When you get to Patriot Games and Clear Present Danger, I wish Harrison Ford had been in Hunt for Red October. Imagine having another movie with Harrison Ford and Sean Connery in it together.
In a serious role, too.
In a serious role, not with a little bit of humor that Last Crusade gave us. So yeah, next week, guys, hunt for Red October. Join us then, probably normal time, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're a little late today because I get my hair cut. That's a thing Jet doesn't understand. But guy like me,
I haven't gotten a haircut since I was in the military.
Yeah,
so it's been a while.
I had my rebel military after the military phase. It didn't get that bad though.
All right, guys. Thank you one and all. We will see you next time. For right now, good night and enjoy a little bit of Tifa on the way out the door.